Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Monday Morning Tennis Rant. And for the 60th time, we have Nadal against Djokovic. In my opinion, this is the best possible level of tennis that you can play. Let me give you two examples. One of the greatest matches in tennis history was the 2009 Madrid semifinal between Nadal and Djokovic that lasted 4 hours. Another match very similar to that one was the 2012 Australian Open final that lasted almost 6 hours, where Djokovic ended up winning. Matt Ebden, who got one game in his first round loss to Djokovic at the Olympics, was asked why Novak is so difficult to play. And Ebden said that Novak lets you play, but it's close to impossible to win a single point. So what Novak does to his opponents is not necessarily blow them off the court, but he is possibly the most consistent player in tennis history. Now, a Nadal in his prime is very similar. Of course, not the same game style. There's more topspin on the forehand. There are possibly more defensive positions at times behind the baseline, but just like Djokovic, it must be an absolute nightmare to win a single point against the prime Nadal. So when you have these two guys facing each other, they don't give an inch to each other. That's why you have so many spectacular long rallies when Djokovic plays against Nadal. When they're both playing at their absolute best, it's so difficult for either one of them to win the point. And in my opinion, this is the best level of tennis that I've ever seen, especially in those two matches that I'm referring to. But there were, of course, many other great matches. The head-to-head is 30-29 in Djokovic's favor. And now they meet for the 60th time at the Olympics in the second round. Now let me talk a little bit about the current form of both Djokovic and Nadal. Let me start with Nadal. I discussed Nadal's performance in Bastad, and I was inspired and motivated by that performance because Nadal was fighting and winning these super close matches, especially in the quarterfinals against Navona. But Nadal was far from his best. And in the first round at the Olympics against Fucsovics, Nadal, again, was playing well in certain portions of the match. But just like in Bastad, there was too many ups and downs where he plays well and all of a sudden starts making a lot of mistakes. So Nadal was actually very fortunate to make it through this match because he could have easily gotten broken early in that third set. So this version of Nadal is far from the best version of Nadal. Can Nadal recapture his best form? That's something that's difficult to answer. I don't know. A lot of this depends on his body. Maybe the body took too much beating over the years and it's going to be difficult for him to play close to his best level. But Nadal is a great competitor. He loves being out there. They asked Nadal in a recent interview whether he's excited about the last dance with Djokovic, and Nadal said, "Why are you saying last dance?" Because in my opinion, if Nadal is healthy, I think he's going to keep going, maybe even past 2025. Everybody's writing him off, but Nadal, very similar to Andy Murray, just loves to play tennis, and if he's able to play, he's going to continue to play. Based on the things that I've heard Nadal say in interviews, when the time comes to hang it up, it's going to be because of his body breaking down and not necessarily his tennis. Because the competitor that Nadal is, he's going to try very hard to find his best forms. I was very intrigued by Nadal's interviews after some of those matches in Bastad, for example, against Norrie, where I thought Nadal played pretty well. Nadal was not happy with his performance. So Nadal, of course, knows that he's far from his best and he's very badly trying to get back there. Djokovic, on the other hand, is playing tennis at a whole nother caliber. This is nowhere near Nadal's level. It's much higher, in my opinion, especially as recent as 2023. Djokovic was on the top of the tennis world. And while 2024 has been a very mysterious season from Novak with a lot of weird performances, he's still delivering some pretty good results, making the semis at the Australian Open, playing pretty well at the French before pulling out, and of course making the Wimbledon final. So just like Nadal, Novak is not at his best, but he's a lot closer to his best form than Nadal is. And while Novak had knee surgery very recently, it appears to me that physically Novak is at a much better level than Nadal. So in the 60th meeting between Nadal and Djokovic, there are a few things that are in Nadal's favor. The tournament is being held at Roland Garros, and the weather is also very hot currently in Paris. Both of these things are a big advantage for Rafa because in hot conditions, his top spin has a tendency to bounce a lot higher. This is where Nadal is at his best on the clay courts. At any moment in Nadal's career, except possibly very early when Djokovic got on tour, Nadal had to play close to his best tennis to have a chance to beat Djokovic. And that is really the only way he's going to have a chance to beat Djokovic in the second round of the Olympics at Roland Garros. Despite the conditions being in his favor, if Nadal doesn't play close to his best level, he has very small chances to win that match. So the big question is, can Nadal reach his top level? We will see. I have my doubts. Nadal is still somewhat early in his comeback. Despite him coming back in Australia early this year, he simply has not had a lot of matches. And he's also dealing with a muscle injury that's unrelated to his previous injury. So if you put all these factors together, I don't see a lot of chances for Nadal beating Djokovic. But while I'm not very hopeful about the result, since you know that I'm a huge Rafa fan, I'm super excited that this match is taking place. I think it's great that it's at Roland Garros on clay at the Olympics. And when Djokovic was interviewed about potentially meeting Nadal in the second round, Djokovic was all class, so respectful of Nadal's dominance on the clay courts. And as a bonus, we also have Nadal Alcaraz, which is maybe the most fun thing that I've ever seen on a tennis court. And I'm hoping that those two guys can win the gold.